But the question is, how can people take anything that the social media sites and news media say seriously about almost anything
Well,
when they so deliberately, put their thumb on the scale of this being a considered option?
well, it's I mean, it's just an illustration of a sort of a broader phenomenon. It's a very visible illustration, and I think that a while ago on my blog, I was or newsletter is or whatever we're calling them these days. I was saying, drawing the obvious comparison between COVID and Chernobyl. And what you saw when you looked at Chernobyl is that you're like, imagine you're a Soviet citizen and you're looking at Chernobyl, and how are you? I mean, this is the conventional wisdom. How are you supposed to think about it? Are you supposed to think that the director of the plant is responsible? Are you supposed to think that, the chief scientist of the plant is responsible? Are you supposed to think that the regional power administration is responsible? Are you supposed to, and that goes on, are you supposed to think that the general secretary is responsible? Are you supposed to think that the whole Soviet system is, in a sense, responsible? Can I sort of trace a line between this unbelievable comedy of, disaster, and the way things actually work in our country? And, and sort of show that in a way this is not an exception, this is really a generalized problem. And so, the question that you're asking is there any authority that's out there that's worth trusting? And the problem really is that, of course, there isn't, and there hasn't been for quite some time. And what's more interesting, that's sort of not so unusual in a way. What is a more interesting question is why that niche is not properly filled. And so when you look at these authorities, that are sort of have this prestige of purveying truth that we now, through this very, very, visible example, which will become only more visible as it kind of cements and becomes what everyone believes, which I hope will happen in some way. By this very visible example, you see that, as I phrased it in that post, maybe putting virologists in charge of virology was not such a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And our the whole way in which our system of governance works, even down to such a thing as virology, and clearly virology is relevant to governments. But even down to such a thing as virology, you have a whole system of government that sort of reinforces expertise with power, that says, let's put the virologists in charge of virology. And it so happens that when you put the virologists in charge of virology, they actually have a number of conflicts of interest. And those conflicts of interest, sort of cause them institutionally to have strange incentives that, even if they were just thought viruses were totally cool, or really cared about protecting humanity against viruses and had big private fortunes and just could do whatever they want, would they be doing some of this shit? No, I don't think they would. I think that a lot of these experiments were driven by the bureaucratic incentives that virologists have when you put them in charge of virology.